You know that feeling when you're putting in all the work, grinding away, but the results just aren't there? It's so frustrating. Well, we're about to jump into a story that really gets to the heart of that, and it makes you ask a huge question. Is the problem with me, or is the whole system just broken?
Yeah, this right here, this quote is wow. It's from an engineer, Gopal Krishnan. And he's looking back on 14 years of his life and just feels like they were completely wasted. I mean, that is such a heavy, powerful feeling, right? And I think a lot of us can kind of relate to that on some level. So we're going to dig in and figure out what on earth could make someone feel that way.
Okay, so let's start with the problem itself. Gobble's story, it's like the perfect example of a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. He was super passionate about engineering, but right from the get-go, there was this massive gap between what he was naturally good at and what his classes were actually asking him to do.
And if you just looked at the results on paper, you'd be totally confused. I mean, he was really struggling in these super theoretical, memorize everything kind of classes. But then you put him in a hands-on lab where he could actually build something, he absolutely crushed it. And this wasn't just some school problem, you know? It followed him into his career. He ended up in these frustrating, low-paying startup jobs, feeling like his whole education had left him totally unprepared for the real world.
So what gives, right? Was he just not cut out for it? Well, not exactly. The real diagnosis here, the key to unlocking this whole thing, is realizing there isn't just one way to learn. Turns out, there are two completely different ways to think about knowledge. And Gopal, well, he was stuck in a system that was totally wrong for him.
And here we go. This image really shows the two paths. You've got one path that's all about recalling answers, and another that's about building the systems to find those answers. It's memorization versus research. One is like a filing cabinet for facts, the other is like a workshop for ideas. And it all boils down to one central question. Where does new knowledge actually come from?
All right, let's really get into the weeds here. On the left, you've got your standard memorization-based learning. This is what most of us experienced in school, right? The input is a bunch of facts and notes. The method, just repeat, repeat, repeat. And what do you get at the end? The right answer on the test, a good grade. Okay, now look at the other side, research-level learning. It doesn't start with facts, it starts with problems and questions. The method isn't just repeating stuff, it's building models, running experiments, messing around with simulations. And the output, it's not just a grade, it's brand new knowledge, it's actual innovation.
And this, right here, is the big idea. This is everything. Memorization just stores answers. But research-level learning, it builds thinking systems. Think about it. One approach gives you a library of facts that you'll probably forget the second the test is over. The other gives you a thinking machine in your head, one that can create answers to problems that don't even exist yet.
Okay, so that's a pretty cool theory, but, is it just a theory? Does it actually explain what happened to Gopal? Well, let's look at the evidence. The proof, as they say, is in the pudding, or in this case, in his grades.
So, where do we find this proof? It's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, right there in his college transcript. And once you start looking at his grades through this new lens, memorization versus research, a completely different story just jumps off the page.
Check this out. This is incredible. Look at his theory courses: wireless communication, computer architecture, E grades, the lowest possible passing grade. But then look at the labs: Circuits and Devices Lab, Digital Electronics Lab, VLSI Design Lab, SSS. The highest grade you can get, S, for outstanding. I mean, come on, the pattern is just, it's right there. It's impossible to ignore.
So the conclusion is it's crystal clear. The guy wasn't bad at engineering, not at all. The problem was that the system was judging him on memorization. But his brain was wired for hands-on experimental systems-level thinking. He was a research-level thinker trapped in a memorization-based world.
And you know what's so powerful about this realization? It's not just about explaining what went wrong in the past. It's about rewriting the future. Suddenly, Gopal could stop thinking of himself as a failure and start seeing what he was truly capable of.
And he didn't just think about it. He actually did something. He built his own personal roadmap to relearn everything, but this time, doing it the right way. He based it on the kind of research-level thinking you'd find at a place like MIT. So the goal wasn't to cram more facts in his head. Nope. The goal was to build the thinking systems themselves. It completely changed the game for him.
Okay, so this is the part you can actually use right now. If you want to make this shift for yourself, you just have to start asking a different set of questions. So instead of asking, what's the right answer, you start asking things like, okay, what real-world problem is this thing even trying to model? Then, what are the hidden assumptions here? Can I try to simulate this myself? And maybe the most important one of all, where does this break? Where does it fail? Because in this way of thinking, failure isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's where all the interesting stuff happens.
So let's pull back for a second, because really, this isn't just about Gotteable's story. This is about a fundamental choice that every single one of us has to make. It's about how we approach learning, how we solve problems. It doesn't matter if you're a student, a pro in your field, or just someone who likes to learn new things. This applies to all of us.
And it really all boils down to this one powerful idea. The biggest, most important shift you can make is to go from just learning answers to learning how answers are created. That's it. That's the secret sauce. That's the engine that drives real understanding, creativity, and honestly, becoming a true expert at something.
So I want to leave you with one final question to think about. Just take a look at your own life, your education, your career, how you learn a new hobby. Ask yourself this. Is the way you're learning just building a library of answers in your head, or is it building a true system for thinking? Because seriously, the answer to that question, it could change everything.